It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-400-8009. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm, of course, your host, Brian Beatty. Almost a decade I've been on this program helping you better understand the real estate market, the process. I know a lot of people get frustrated and I think overwhelmed with the process at times. Is now the right time to buy? Is now the right time to sell? Should I be looking at investment property? We're getting all kinds of questions like this, especially in this market right now. So This episode is frankly I think my favorite episode of the year. It's the Halloween episode. So we're going to talk about some scary stories in real estate. When things don't go according to plan, what do? Obviously, real estate agents need to be good problem solvers, but we need to be even better problem finders so that we prevent those things from happening as best we can. So we're going to talk about just a few random stories today and the impact that had on one party and what we did about it. These are things that I think you can seriously benefit from as a listener of this program. Now, if at any point in time you hear something that you'd like more information on, perhaps you're thinking of buying a home, selling a home, investing in real estate, you have a home that you would like for us to manage for you through our property management company, then I invite you to give me a call, 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. Or you can go online, listingsincharleston.com is our website. listingsincharleston.com. Now, on that site, you can search for homes for sale, look at some of the shadow inventory that we have not publicly listed for sale, find out more about our real estate team, listen to, hundreds upon hundreds of shows like this. I think we've got over 700 videos on YouTube. So just Google the Brian Beatty team and you'll find us, and you can watch, listen, hear, whatever you'd like to do. So let's get into this. I want to talk about some scary stories in real estate. And these are real situations that I have experienced in doing this for over 17 years now, over 1,200 transactions here locally. And so just when you think you've seen it all, so you get surprised, right? That's why I try not to never say that, because there's always some sort of situation or some sort of person out there that is going to give me a run for the money. So I think the first maybe scary story, if that's what you want to call it, that I want to focus on is just the kind of the market in general right now. This event that we're going through where they are purposefully destroying demand to try and, deal with this inflation, right? They're overcorrecting right now. And so the typical buyer out there that's going and getting pre-approved with good credit, in the mid to upper 700s, they're still looking at a 7.25%, sometimes 7.5% interest rate right now. That is a humongous difference from where we were at the beginning of the year at about 3%. So payments have basically doubled, a little more than doubled in some instances. And it's done exactly, I think, what they set out to do, to destroy demand among buyers. For a lot of people, not only does it not make sense to buy right now, but they can't afford to. They've been priced out of the market, which is why rental prices are going through the roof, which is why if you are someone interested in owning real estate, cash flowing real estate, I think it's a fantastic opportunity to take advantage of the dynamics in the market, because really what's happening right now, and I'd say there are a lot of people out there that are just confused, right? They're concerned, they're hesitant. It's causing them to just kind of, I don't know, they're afraid of what's going to happen, and therefore it creates indecision. And that makes sense. If you think about what happened in the beginning of the year, looking at, last year as well, from a buyer's perspective, not only was there very little available to purchase, but when you did find something you like, you had to get into basically a bare knuckle boxing match with somebody or maybe 10 other people in order to try and win the contract on the house. It's not a matter of, paying full price and securing your position. It's how far above asking price you're willing to go, how much you're willing to pay to own that property. And of course, the saving grace was, well, hey, even if you have to go up $5,000, $15,000, $50,000, $100,000 in some instances, You still benefit from an extremely low interest rate. And so that was justifiable. Well, now, with all these price reductions that have been happening, not just locally or regionally or statewide, but across the country, I mean, we're seeing a deflation in the market. Now, the question, of course, is that really a reduction in value? Are property values declining? Or are people just having to get real with what their house will actually sell for? And I think in many instances, it's the latter. There are still plenty of areas in Charleston that are hot and areas of Charleston that are appreciating. Some have gone the other direction. It depends on how saturated that area, that location, that price range is, and then what people are doing to position themselves to sell. You're starting to see some aggressiveness from sellers that buyers haven't been used to seeing for years. So I think the silver lining for a buyer is that, yes, interest rates are high right now. There are a lot of people that I've talked to and experts in the industry that own mortgage companies that believe by, say, summer of next year, these rates are going to come back down. So this whole idea of, quote, marry the house, date the rate is what you're going to hear basically every lender out there saying right now. What I would caution buyers with right now is to make an offer on the property if and only if you are comfortable affording that home at that payment in perpetuity. Now, over the course of the next 30 years, if you stay in that home, will interest rates likely go down below what you're going to secure today? Yes. And I think that could happen as early as summer of next year. But in the meantime, it's causing a lot of indecision. It's causing a slowdown in the market. Buyers are taking advantage of that because sellers are finally realizing, hey, we are no longer in a position where I can list my home for 5, 15, 50, 100 grand more than the house that just sold last week. We're basically at the point now where if you want to sell your property, you're going to have to price it at, in most instances, what the most recent sale was, maybe even a tad below it, if that's the direction that specific section of the market is taking. And so there are a lot of agents out there that are still telling sellers, hey, let's try this price. Let's price this way. It's easier to come down than it is to go up. There's all these different things they say that justify overpricing a property. And really what ends up happening in most instances is they end up having to reduce the price and they waste valuable marketing time. And I want you guys to think about this for a second. When a property first hits the market, you're essentially marketing to two different groups of people. Group number one is the group of people that are ready, willing, and able. They're ready to go and buy a house. They're just waiting for the right one to hit the market. And, again, kind of the silver lining with what's happening right now is we're starting to see more options. And not only that, but sellers are more agreeable to negotiations. You're starting to find some deals again. The second group of people are the people that enter the market every day. Something has changed in their life, and now they are ready to buy a house. Well, at some point in time, usually around 4 weeks or so, you exhaust that first group of people. The people that are ready, willing, and able, they're watching the market like a hawk, waiting for the right home to hit the market. They're going to see your house hit the market, and they're going to make an instantaneous decision as to whether they want to see it in person or not. And if they choose to see it in person, then the next step is, well, am I going to make an offer or not? And buyers, especially over the course of the past several years, with the emergence of things like Zillow's Zestimate and just the overwhelming amount of information that's available for buyers, they're educated. They're more educated than maybe the buyer was the last time you sold a house 10 years ago. They just have more access to data. They're more obsessed with the data. So they're pretty well educated on what things will sell for. If you have a buyer that's been looking for a significant period of time and they've watched homes hit the market and go under contract versus other homes that hit the market and sit, they have a pretty decent pulse on the market in terms of what's actually going to sell and at what price that home will sell. So as a seller, what you want is for that buyer to look at your property and say, not only do I need to go and see this now, I need to make a decision now, because if I don't, somebody else will. One of the basics in marketing with anything is creating fear of loss, but especially with a high ticket item that has so much emotion wrapped up into it, right? It doesn't matter necessarily if your home's a good deal. If a buyer doesn't like your house, they're just not going to buy it. If it just doesn't work for them, if it doesn't speak to them, if it's not quote unquote the one, then they're going to move on. But you need to increase your chances of having buyers fight over each other, or at least get the buyer that's truly interested, maybe the buyer for your house, into the mindset of, hey, if I don't do something now, then I might lose this property. What a lot of people are doing still is frankly overpricing real estate, mostly at the direction of their real estate agent, because the real estate agent either they're not aware of what's happening in that specific area, in that specific price range. They're not experienced enough to coach their clients into how to effectively position their home to sell. Maybe they're just afraid to have the conversation in the first place. They'd rather have you sign an agreement and allow that agent to just start to get to work, right? Display some sort of value, and then try and knock you down on the price a little after the fact. That is a classic shady real estate agent move. You know, it's hey, let me get them to sign on the dotted line. Let's get a bit of a relationship formed here. I'll make sure I'm calling them, communicating with them, and then I'll get them to drive down the price, hopefully. And then hopefully at that point I can sell the house. So we call it buying a listing in this industry. And that's something that you want to be cautious of when you're a seller. Now, I'm not going to say that overpricing real estate is always the wrong move. There are times and places for it. But your agent needs to have a very firm, pointed discussion with you about what that is going to look like. What's going to be the impact of that decision? How long should you wait and hope that somebody's going to come along and fall in love with your house and be willing to pay that price? Or at what point in time do we make the decision to kind of come back down a little bit to reality, price it where it needs to be, and actually sell the property? I mean, I don't care how nice your Honda Accord is. If your Honda Accord is on the lot for $14,000 and there are 8 other Honda Accords that basically look the exact same for sale for $10,000, what realistic chance do you have of selling your car at $14,000? It's the fear of losing money. It's the fear of leaving money on the table that drives people to make that initial decision. And in this market where there's already so much indecision, you need to find the ways to get buyers to act. And so we're going to talk about all kinds of different things with whether it be a buyer or a seller or an investor. I'm going to share some scary stories with you, or really not scary so much, but just when things go wrong, what do you do? What are your options? What does that look like? How do those types of things play out? So that's what we're going to talk about here for the next almost hour. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. Remember, if you want to reach out to me, you'd like to talk with me about being your real estate agent, my number is 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. Or check us out online at listingsincharleston.com. Stick around. We'll be right back.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA.